We are going to accomplish two things tonight. We're going to do a short overview of next year's school budget. This is not our full budget hearing, it is a shortened version. And then we're going to talk about the capital project. So we'll begin with the budget. So this is a summary of our annual budget and the presentation. If you have any questions from home, you can email communications@nccs-k12.org. We will be monitoring that tonight, and any of those questions that come in, we will be happy to answer for you. Every time we start a budget meeting, we always think about our mission, and our mission is always to best serve the children in our community, and that means not just their academic growth, but also their social, emotional growth and development, and providing them with the opportunities that they deserve so that they can have a high quality and relevant, equitable education. We realize our mission through what we like to call our three pillars: academic excellence, equity, and social emotional health. So whether we're putting up something for a capital project or putting up something for a budget, we're always looking through those three lenses to make sure that what makes it into the budget or what makes it into the capital project will advance our work under one of those three major pillars. So this year, we're excited to say that the district is able to offer new programs as well as new staffing. We're in a good position financially, and so in order to continue to meet those aspects of our pillar, we're going to add some new programs and initiatives. So the first new program we have is something called Freshman Seminar. This will be for all incoming 9th grade students. It will be a way where it will be a class that they get to take for credit, where they get to learn about how to just acclimate to high school, how to join clubs, activities, how to make friends, how to manage all the multiple different courses. And when we saw this somewhere else, I love the way one of the principals talked about it. They said, it's kind of like your freshman seminar teacher is your school mom or your school dad. It's that extra person who keeps an eye on you. And certainly we have school guidance counselors, but obviously they don't see the kids every day. This would be somebody that you can check in with every day in a small cohort who helps you to navigate. We know those big transition years, kindergarten, 6th grade, 9th grade, are very important. We're adding a new elective at the high school called Take a Look at Teaching. Right now in New York State, in the next 5 years, we expect that 1/3 of the current teacher workforce will be retiring. At the same time, we have the lowest number of people in college preparation programs to be teachers. So we have a pipeline problem. So this will be a class which will introduce high school juniors or seniors to the concept of teaching, what it really means. They think they know because they've had classes forever, but what really goes into being a teacher. And one of the best parts about this program is that by the time they're done with the program, if they're passing the class, they can sit for the teacher assistant certification exam. So at the end of the class, they could take the TA exam and then be employed that very summer in some of our summer programs as a teacher assistant. So it helps introduce them to a future course, but it also has a very real possibility of getting them some summer work and getting them some opportunities. We are going to add athletic training. We are a very big suburban council district. We have many student athletes. We have over 1,000 athletes competing each season. We are the only suburban council school district that does not have an athletic trainer. And so this is someone who will be able to help our student athletes both prevent injuries, help them if there is something in an injury, and it is also a rapidly growing field. So although it won't happen in the first year, this is a person that we believe in future years can teach another elective, talking to kids about sports medicine, because that is a really very real pathway. If you notice the number of different kinds of gyms that have popped up in the area, this would be a course that students could take. So as we try to appeal to all of our students' interests, it will have an immediate effect on our athletes and then a long-term effect on all of our students. We're opening up our arts assessment pathway. New York State is recognizing different kinds of pathways to graduation. And so this year we're going to be adding some additional staff so we can have some additional electives in our music program. We have lots of kids who participate in all of our performing groups, chorus, band, orchestra, who take music theory, who take music technology. We're adding another course in guitar playing, songwriting, so that as many students who are interested in the arts but may not be the performers but might be on the creative side have an opportunity to fill that need. We're going to add a director of health and safety. We currently have a supervisor of nursing and health services. We're going to convert that from a 10-month position to an 11-month position and have this person also work on all of our district safety planning. And then the last one is a very exciting opportunity for us. We are very close to getting an answer on this. So before these presentations are done, before the budget, I hope we'll have an answer. So we are currently in pursuit of a grant. We think there's a really good likelihood that we will receive this grant. And we have a teacher right now who is a science teacher who has done tremendous work on the literal Shaker Garden. So if you've been in the center of Shaker High School, you will know that it doesn't just have flowers and herbs, it doesn't just have tomatoes and the things that you might typically grow in a garden. It has a full irrigation system, it has peach trees, it has apple trees. Over the summer, everything that we harvest, once a week we meet and we give free fruits and vegetables out to our community. It is really helping students to see where food comes from, what it means to be sustainable. We take the ingredients from the garden, our food services department uses it, so our cafeteria lunches have fresh fruit or vegetables that are grown right here. Their salads are made with ingredients that we grow. And so in this, what we're hoping is with this grant, this person would be able to, for 3 years, to work solely as the Shaker Garden coordinator, which means developing gardens in each of our elementary schools. We have some of them in some places already, so further developing and making sure that from our youngest learners, they understand where their food comes from, to work with them on healthy eating, to work with them on community connections, and develop the continued partnerships that we have. We have a great relationship with Forts Ferry Farm. They're the ones who help us with the irrigation system. We have a great relationship with local chefs who come in and help us and help the kids learn how to use the fruits and vegetables that are grown in the garden. So it really becomes a very big cooperative endeavor, and to loop in all of our elementary schools and middle school so that we're starting from the youngest age helping students to know about these opportunities. That will be contingent upon the receipt of that grant. We're very close, we're very hopeful, but that will be contingent upon getting that grant. We are also adding staffing this year. Our enrollment, if you've been around the district, you know our enrollment continues to grow, and we continue to add positions. That is not typical in this area, as some schools, you've probably heard it on the news, have had declining enrollment, so they've been cutting positions. We are just the opposite. We have increasing enrollment, so we're adding positions. We'll be adding 2 English as a new language teachers. We'll be adding 0.8 to world language. And wherever you see something that is a point something, that's already an area where we have part-time already, so we're adding it already to a part-time. We know we're not gonna get a 0.2 something, but we already have positions. We're adding 1.2 special education teachers. We're adding another social worker. We're adding 3 teacher assistants. We're adding 0.2 to our speech pathology department. We're adding 0.4 to our technology, 0.2 to social studies and science, 0.8 for health and PE together, 0.3 for music, 0.1 for art. So those are all new positions or additional positions that are necessary because our enrollment is growing and we have more students that we need to serve. We are adding 2 additional hall monitors as part of our district safety response team. And then, as I mentioned on the previous slide, the Director of Health and Safety, I have an asterisk there because it's not a new position to the budget, it is a repurposed position. And then adding the athletics trainer. So when we look at those are kind of the exciting pieces, but let's look at the very high level, the budget summary. This is not the full summary. So in 2017, the voters in this district approved a capital reserve, a savings account, if you will, for us to do future capital projects. And we have been putting money into that savings account. It has about $10 million in it. As part of the law, we had to go to the voters to say, is it okay for us to establish this reserve? They resoundingly said, yes, you can establish this reserve. When we're ready to use money out of that reserve, we also have to go to the voters again and say, can we take money out of this account? And here's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a number of different projects through this capital reserve fund. This has no impact on your taxes because this isn't money we're asking you to pay. We're just asking you for the authority to use the money we've already saved. So these are all the things we'll accomplish largely with our own workforce. And you can see they range. So we have district-wide radio replacements. That's obviously for safety and security. And then we have district-wide water heater replacements. A lot of these aren't the cool new classrooms, but they're the infrastructure kinds of things that we need to take care of, just like you would in your own home. We need to do some abatement work at Blue Creek and at Loudonville. We need to work and improve the ventilation at the Latham Ridge Gymnasium. We're adding sound panels in the cafeterias, Southgate, Latham Ridge, and Blue Creek. They are very noisy and kind of like sound panels you see here. We're doing gymnasium equipment renovations for all of our elementary gyms. We are going to talk about the bathrooms in a moment. We are doing some work on the entry to the high school where the H gym is. Currently, if you go to the high school at night and you want to go see a sporting event, you go in the main entrance, and if you've been in the high school, you've got to kind of go through the maze to get to the gym. And when we think about safety and security, we really want a single point of entry so that you go in the entrance that leads you right to the lobby where the gym is, and then the rest of the building is closed off. And then you leave through that. So we'll add a secure entrance like we have at all of our main entrances to our buildings. We'll add a secure entrance there, so when people are coming at night for sporting events, they know exactly where to go, and it's very easy for us to get people in and out. We need to upgrade our elevator at the high school. We're going to refinish the gymnasium floor. We need to do some storm drain replacement. If you've been around Shaker High School, you know it is very wet. It is like a soup bowl. And when you have a wet spring, we really need to upgrade our drain system. And our running track, it is at the time where it needs to be resurfaced so that we can make sure it's safe for our athletes, and we'll replace the fencing around the track. The one thing that I skipped over was the single occupancy bathrooms, as you can see in C, D, and E wings. Currently at the high school, all of our bathrooms are multi-stall. So you go in through a main area, then there's multiple stalls and sinks. We are going to convert those to single stall bathrooms. So what that means is it is actually like what in an old-fashioned way you might call the water closet. It has a full door on it. It's not a stall. Nobody can look above. Nobody can look below. You go in. You literally lock the door. They're very small. You can't put another person in there if you tried. You go in. You use the toilet, and then when you come back out, the sinks are in the main area, so they can be much more easily supervised. You go in and you actually can use the bathroom, get in and out quickly, and because they are all single stalls, you just go in and lock the door behind you. Anybody can use those stalls, so it will help when kids are trying to go to the bathroom between classes. It gives us a lot more, and so we'll work on those in 3 of the different ways. So that total work is about $5.7 million. That's about half, a little less than half of what we have in that reserve. So that's not extra money we're asking you to spend. We'll just be asking in this project, do you give us the authority to spend it so we can get those projects done? So if you look, this is our revenues. As we always say, as a school district, we don't run on a deficit. We're not the federal government. We can't have a deficit. We have to present to you a balanced budget. Our revenues come from 2 places, taxes and state aid. So I'm going to start actually on the bottom with state aid. Because you may have heard a lot in the news, the budget took a long time to get settled this year. There was a lot of back and forth between the governor and the legislators about where state aid was going to end up. Foundation aid, which you can see at the top, which is our largest amount of aid proposed for next year, a little over $31.5 million. That is an enrollment-driven number. So we are a district that is not facing what some other districts were facing, which is a cut in state aid. We continue to get additional state aid because we continue to have additional students registered to our district. So we're actually going up. That was in the governor's proposed budget, 7.1%. That number came down a little bit in the finalized budget, but very close to that amount of money. That is truly our biggest amount of aid. Our building aid has gone down a little bit. You might worry about that, but that's just because debt is coming off. So that's actually a good thing. We're getting less aid because we have less debt. So that's always a positive. Our transportation aid is up by about 13.5%. Again, that's because we have to do more transporting because we have more students. Our BOCES aid is down as of the time these runs happened. That's directly related to how much money we spent through our BOCES cooperative services. By the end of the year, that will come out to be about even. But at the time that these were run, it was down. Our high cost aid is up over 17%, and our materials aid is up over 26%. So on average, compared to some other districts nearby, we have done well with state aid, and we are grateful for that, because as I just said, with increasing enrollment, we've had to add teachers every year. With districts with declining enrollment, as people retire, they're able to say, you know what, we don't need to replace this position. We don't need an extra third grade class because we have plenty of room. We have not been able to do that. We've added faculty and staff every year for the last decade because of our increased enrollment. So we are grateful for the support of our state aid. So that's one big piece. And then our property taxes are a payment in lieu of taxes. So this is what we can collect for the community. This year we are proposing $95.5 million as our tax levy. That is an increase of $2.3 million, or that is a change of 2.5%. Now, you may remember in the past the tax cap formula. The tax cap would allow us to go to 3.61%, that we could raise the tax levy up to 3.61% with a simple majority. We're not going to that number. We're going in at 2.5%. We can balance our budget because of the increased state aid, and we want to be mindful. We know, some families are struggling, things are more expensive, so we're not going out at 3.6. And we have more payments in lieu of taxes coming on this year because as growth happens and deals are made within the town, their taxes get collected differently. So where does all that money go? Our total proposed budget will be $154 million. This is the breakdown. I like to remind people, because nobody thinks of the school district this way, that we are the single largest employer in the entire town of Colony. No one else is close. So with that, being the single largest employer in the town of Colony, we have a lot of staff. We have a lot of faculty, we have a lot of staff, we have a lot of bus drivers and food service workers. So when you put it together, it doesn't come as a surprise that the greatest part of our budget is in salary and benefits, because we are a people-driven business. And then the following lists out where the rest of the monies go as we continue to operate as our school district. Okay, so this piece is a little tricky because this year we're talking about taking money out of that capital reserve. That's technically known as transfer to capital, but I say to my business colleague all the time, no one in the real world uses the phrase transfer to capital, so can we just say taking money out of the capital reserve account? So if you look at the top, and you can see here in red, 2.5, that's the tax levy increase that we talked about. That's the amount of money additionally we're going to collect in taxes this year. In 23-24, the year we're in, our adopted budget was $146.9 million. Our projected budget for next year is $154 million, and that is a dollar difference of a little over $7 million, or 4.83%. So budget to budget, we're increasing by 4.83%. However, that is because in that formula, we have to include the $5 million that we're taking out of the capital reserve. So if we weren't doing the capital reserve projects at all this year, if we weren't using that money, that's what's below in blue. This year's budget, 146.9. We're actually moving budget to budget, excluding the capital reserve that we already have money for. We're only going up to 148, or 1.399, 1.4 million difference. Or we're raising the budget to budget by 0.95%. So we're raising expenditures only under 1%, but with the transfer to capital, when you include that, because that's how much money we're going to spend. We're going to spend 148 plus the money out of transfer to capital for a total of 154. So we have to represent that as the 4.83%. So this is the dollar difference we have, so that's the 2.5%, and we will estimate that we'll use about $720,000 in fund balance to balance the budget, which is far lower than what we've used in past years. That number has been in the millions. So this is really helping us to keep reserves. So just another way of looking at that same chart. So the 23-24 budget, the 24-25 proposed budget, excluding that capital reserve fund, is going up about 1.4 million, which is fueling still all those new programs, all that new staffing. So an increase of 0.95%. The projected tax levy increase is 2.5. Our tax cap, as I said, is 3.61. We're not going to that. But the estimated tax rate increase, if you are an individual homeowner, your tax rate increase is slated to be about 1.6%. So why is that? So remember, the tax levy is the amount we're collecting from everyone. So the amount we're going to collect from everyone is going up by 2.5%. Why does yours only go up by 1.6%? Because of the growth in the town. There's more people to spread out that whole tax levy. So as more people are paying into that, each individual has to pay less. So the real feel, if you're paying your taxes, will be projected to be 1.62%. So overall, we're going to collect 2.5, but because we're, again, a growing town, that makes your individual share actually less. And that's something where we're different than other districts as well. Okay, we're going to transition into the capital project, but I wanted to see, because that was a quick overview, if there are any questions on the budget. We'll talk about voting, and we'll talk about what the propositions look like at the end. And we will also be having a full budget hearing, not this Wednesday, a week from Wednesday as well, where we'll get into the tax cap formula and far more detail. Okay, so let's talk about the capital project. And before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about enrollment data, which is driving the capital project. Okay, we got our video first. This will give you an overview, and then we'll talk about enrollment.
Sorry, Chris, I apologize.
Here you go. It's coming now.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Steele, Superintendent of the North Colony Central School District. I'm excited to talk to you about our capital project, which will be on the ballot on May 21st. This project will be focused on Shaker High School. In May of 2017, we concentrated primarily on the elementary schools and the middle school because, as you know, we've had a tremendous growth in enrollment in North Colony. So we created a beautiful 6th through 8th middle school, and we converted our elementary buildings to K-5. What we cut out of the project was Shaker High School because the growth in enrollment would obviously hit there later. Shaker High School is a vibrant and wonderful place filled with incredibly curious and active students. Shaker High School opened in 1958. At that time, there were approximately 1,100 students enrolled in grades 7 through 12. Currently, Shaker High School has 2,100 students, and it is forecasted to have over 2,300 students by the end of this decade. We are teaching students here in the 21st century in a building that was largely constructed in the 1950s.
The high school is in need of a facelift, a renovation, and not just for aesthetics, but also for our capacity and our ability to really serve our students in different content areas.
There's definitely a lot of challenges with just like the space that we have right now. It's very, very outdated. With a physics or a chemistry sort of class where it's more hands-on, you can really like limit what you're able to do.
Currently, I'm enrolled in AP Biology, and in the full class, we have about 30 kids, but even fitting about 20 people in here trying to do a lab has been very, very difficult.
I have been in, I think, every single art classroom we've had. The biggest issue I think we have with this space is that there's not enough room. The class gets shut down really quick because there's so many kids who want to take ceramics classes.
For all of our students, our #1 goal in North Colony is that they can find their passion, whatever it is, And we want to make sure that this building project, whether you're a scientist, an artist, a musician, a robotics student, whatever your passion is, we have the facilities here that can help you grow your skills, develop your passions, and help you to see how you can make meaningful contributions to our world.
The district leadership team has worked hard to develop a scope of work for this project that mitigates the tax impact to the community. The total cost of the project is estimated to be approximately $94.1 million, but we are in a very favorable position to receive almost 78% building aid back on the cost of the project. New York State incentivizes school districts to improve their campuses through the provision of building aid, so the taxpayers will end up spending approximately $20.6 million after building aid is applied.
The capital project vote will be scheduled on the same day as our annual school budget vote. This year it's Tuesday, May 21st. The voting is at the district office, which is 91 Fiddler's Lane. We're open from 6 a.m. for all of you who like to come before work, and we're here till 9 p.m. at night. North Colony residents who are registered voters are able to request a ballot and vote by mail this year. If you would like to request a ballot, simply scan the QR code that's on the screen or go to our North Colony website to request your ballot at any time.
So we'll talk more about all aspects that you saw in that video, but sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. So let's talk a little bit about one of the things you heard, which is the enrollment growth. So the high school originally opened as a 7 through 12 building with 1,100 kids. Now we have over 2,100 at this point, in 9 through 12. And so if you lived in the district, you know that the enrollment has been surging. So in the last decade, from 2013 to 2023, the district went up by 675 students. But if you look in that same period, the high school only went up by 67. That's because the enrollment growth was at the elementary level. So our youngest students, that's where we went with the first project. We needed extra space in the elementaries. We converted to a middle school so we could get more space in the elementary. Now, by 2025, so where are we projected just for the end of next school year? 2025 sounds really far away to me, but it's really just next year. So the district will continue to grow, not quite up to 62, 65, not quite up 250 kids, but about that, about 250 kids for the district. But if you look, the high school next year will be up to 2132. So they'll be up 103 students. So now we're starting to see the shift as these younger groups are aging up, that almost half of the enrollment growth in the district will be at Shaker High School. So it's going to continue to get to be a very big building. And then by 2030, by the end of the decade, the district loses about 7 students. What we've seen since the beginning, and has been the consistent projection, is that the district does not actually go down. It just finally levels off. So we've been climbing like this for all these years, and by the end of the decade and into the decade of 2030s, I don't even know how you say that easily, we're expected to really level off. So we're not going to lose enrollment, but we're going to stay steady. But even then, when we're losing 7 district-wide, this high school is still adding another 150. So as we go throughout this decade, we're going to continue to add growth to the high school. This is just an interesting comparison in the region. Over the last decade, New York State as a whole has lost over 9% of its K through 12 public student population as people have moved out of the state. That is not true for North Colony. So if you look at our numbers, we've gone up about 16% over the last decade. The next closest is Niskayuna, who went up 188 students, or up 5%. In this same decade, all of our other neighbors are having declining enrollment. So we are really an anomaly right now in that we continue to grow and we continue to serve more and more students. And so if you look, we are now bigger than the City School District of Saratoga Springs. We are bigger than the City School District of Troy. So if you look in the region, quite frankly, Schenectady City Schools is the biggest, Albany is second, Shenandoah is third, and now North Colony is fourth. So we have really grown. And I will tell you, 13 years ago, 14 years ago now, in 2010, when I started as assistant superintendent, Bethlehem, Guilderland, South Colony, North Colony, we were all hovering right around 5,000. we were all almost exactly the same size, 100 here or there off. But in this last decade, while we've gone up into the 6,000s, they've all settled down into the 4,000. So we continue to grow significantly as a district. Okay, so this is an overview of the work that will be done. So we are looking at the first floor of Shaker High School. Anything that is in the orange color is an addition. So you see something on the left, that's additional space, we'll talk about it. You see something on the right, that's additional space, we'll talk about it. So starting on the right, you see a row of classrooms over here. This is what we know as J-Wing. J-Wing is the newest wing of Shaker High School, and it was built and it was voted on in 1999. So it's hard for me to believe that 1999 was 25 years ago, but there you go. So the newest wing of the building is 25 years old. And when it was originally built, it was built with classrooms only on one side because whoever was thinking about it then was saying, this town is going to continue to grow, and so let's leave you a space to be able to add more classrooms. So all those will be brand new classrooms we'll add. You can see over there in the corner, that's another toilet renovation that we'll do because we'll convert all these toilets into these single occupancy stalls. In the middle, everything that's in the middle, that aqua or bluish color, that is both our 2 cafeterias and our kitchen. That space, as you can see, it's not wrapped in orange, so we're not doing any additions, but what we are doing is a huge whole-scale renovation. In the middle of those 2 cafeterias is a giant old kitchen with equipment that should go to the Smithsonian. It is giant, no one uses it, it's too heavy to take out, but what it's doing is it's taking up all this square footage. And think about all of our appliances and things at home, how much since 1950 these things have changed. So what we're going to do is when we gut that kitchen, we're gonna give the kitchen a much smaller footprint because it has way too much room, thereby opening up the space for where our students can eat and go through serving lines. So that will be a full-scale renovation. And then over here, on my far left, that is our auditorium. Our auditorium is original to the high school. You just saw the numbers and how big we are as a district. So a fun fact is, while we're the 4th biggest district, we have the 2nd smallest auditorium in the entire suburban council. So it was built for, 1,100 kids in grades 7 through 12. It was not built for 2,000 plus kids. So with this, we will add space and we're going to bump out just a little bit so that we can have a bigger stage area. We're also going to redo the lobby because again, when it was built in 1950, somebody thought it was a good idea to have an auditorium with 2 bathrooms, each of which only have 1 stall. So when it's intermission, you really can't get through the line. So we'll redo that. We'll also add a secure entrance there. So just like on the gym side, when you're going in at night to go to a theater performance, a concert, anything like that, you'll go in through a secured vestibule. And then on the far left are our group performing spaces. Those are also, we'll see some pictures of those, designed for a much smaller group, so we're going to increase that. And if you know anything about Shaker High School, we're really landlocked. So we really don't have a lot of space to move the auditorium here, there, or anywhere. So what we're going to do is we are going to literally raise the roof so that we can have higher ceilings in our performance spaces so that they can have beautiful acoustics. And we're going to raise the roof of our auditorium so we can actually add a balcony, and that's where our additional seating will come from. So I keep saying, think about New York City. They can't build everywhere because it's small, so what do? They build up, so that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna build up. So as we think about the classroom construction and renovation, on the right-hand side, this is one of the spaces in our beautiful new middle school that you can see is very different. It's modern. It's got all kinds of tiered seating. What you see on the left is an actual picture of a classroom in Shaker High School right now. It has chalkboards. It is 2024. It has chalkboards. I don't know if you can see it in the far side, but it's got one of those big fat TVs hanging from the ceiling that none of us have in our homes anymore. It has got these single unit desks that are very heavy because the chair is attached to the desk. So there's no way for kids to collaborate or get in groups. You really do have to just kind of sit in rows because it's very hard to move that furniture. So these are the kinds when we say we're going to be doing renovations, this is some of the renovation work that needs to be done. in order for kids to work like they need to learn today, which is collaboratively. This is the bathroom renovation that I was mentioning before. So you can see on the right-hand side, that's that typical multi-stall bathroom with all the sinks. So if you look on the left-hand side, what you get are those closed toilet rooms, and then the sinks are out here, and if you can see it, they're kind of on the hallway, so that if kids are coming out and they are trying to fool around or not be in class and hang out too long, there's lines of supervision everywhere. So come out, wash your hands, and get back to class. So it makes for a much safer environment for everybody, and it also makes it just that much easier to keep moving traffic along. I was just at a conference, and it was in a huge conference hotel, and that is exactly how the bathrooms were set up. It was just boom, 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 boom. You went to whatever one was open, because you know everybody goes out on a break. You got 10 minutes, and you just go to an open bathroom, go out to a sink, and it does flow the traffic much better. This is the cafeteria renovation that is needed. So on the right-hand side, you see a picture of the cafeteria that is here. So you can see on the far side of that picture where the woman isn't standing, one of the serving lines. Where the woman is standing, you can see a second serving line. And then in the front, you can see the standalone cash register. So like if you've gone to, I was recently at like a hospital cafeteria where you go through and then there's multiple stations where you check out. It again flows traffic better. If you look on the left, that is our cafeteria line at the high school. It is just that wide, so kids have to come in through that. They only have that one line to get through. And what you can see, because it's not in the pictures, at the end, there is the one cash register. So you get all these kids coming down trying to get their lunches, and they're spending a significant amount of time in that line just trying to get through that line. So we need to open up that space, give them multiple points of access to get their food, multiple points to check out, and then get to the table, so they get to spend more time eating their lunches and not being stressed out about, I spent so long in line, I barely have any time to eat lunch or talk to my friends and just take a breath and socialize. So there's pictures of this auditorium, but you can also look around. This is a beautiful new space that was constructed. Obviously all new seating, but you can see the acoustic panels, you can see all the lighting has changed, you can see the sound panels on the side. Those are both captured over here on the left-hand side. On the bottom. On the top is the Shaker High School auditorium. I'm just gonna say, it actually looks kind of okay in that photo. It's not a bad photo, but you can see the way the lighting is, that is all original, and just a short month ago, the high school theater group did Grease, and so when they were getting on and telling you to silence your cell phones and do all that good stuff, they said sit back, relax, and get ready to go back to the 1950s. And then they're like, actually you're in the 1950s because that's when this auditorium was built. I'm like, good one, kids. So it needs the renovation. We have an amazing and thriving music program, and so that space needs to be available to our students to be able to perform at their best. To the right is when we were talking about those big group practicing spaces. So if you look at the bottom, that is one of the ones in the middle school, and I don't know if you can see it, but all around the perimeter there is storage. That is all storage for instruments, and you can see that it's storage of varying sizes. So depending on what kind of instrument you have, you either have more of a square cubby or a rectangular space specially designed. You can see the sound panels on the ceiling. Above that is the picture of the band room at the high school. It is significantly smaller. It doesn't have quite the specialized storage for the instruments. It is tiered seating, so the kids they have no space in there, and they really outgrown that space. It's also a much lower roof, so when we are bringing up the roof for the auditorium, we'll bring it up for that space, so it can be on par with what they currently have in the middle school. So that was downstairs and some pictures. Now let's look at what's going to happen upstairs. So upstairs, you can see in orange again, J. So we're going to add new classrooms to J, just like we are downstairs. I'm going to orient you to that. Over on this side, again in the orange, this is where we're going to expand. And this is where we add the balcony, where we add the raised ceilings to the performance spaces. But one of the other cool things that will happen is above where the new lobby will be built, we'll be able to build more of an atrium space to have an art gallery. We already have a small art gallery. It's kind of down a hallway, so we make this an open space that can really celebrate the work that our artists do. They win all kinds of awards, and their work should be displayed for the whole community to enjoy. In pink over here, you see 2 art rooms that will be renovated. You heard the student in the video talk about the art room and the space, so 2 of those rooms will be renovated. Everything else you see is in green. Everything in green is a science classroom. So J-Wing will have some brand new science classrooms built. Everything else in green will be a renovated space to be a renovated science classroom. I have been saying at almost every presentation that our science classes were built literally before man walked on the moon. And then when I thought about the date, it's actually a decade before man walked on the moon. It wasn't even right there when man walked on the moon. It was a decade before that. They are out of date. You saw that in the video. Our science supervisor is here. That wasn't even the worst of the science rooms that they filmed in, actually. It is not set up. Those rooms are set up for a time, which probably many of us had, where you had to go into science class and like memorize the periodic table, be able to restate all the elements. That's not what science is anymore. Science is about kids actually doing science and understanding. Our spaces are not set up for that. They're too small. So this will be a massive renovation of all of our science spaces. In addition, so those are things we talked about. We will also do roof replacements. As we get into each of these areas, the roof is old. If you had to put a roof on your own house, you know roofing is not inexpensive. So we'll be doing significant renovations to the roof, because if we're gonna make all these beautiful spaces, we've gotta make sure the roof is replaced. We will be doing the art gallery renovations. We will be adding synthetic surface to Lower Malloy. Again, this is one of those spaces, if you know it, it is constantly flooded. It is where our soccer teams play, it is where our lacrosse teams play, and in the spring, and in a spring like this where it's raining, they can never get out on that field. So we're going to replace that so that they can use it. We've got some great video of that coming that is really worth seeing. We're going to add some lighting to Walker Field. Right now we have old lights that cost us a ton in energy. We'll add LED lighting that will be directed to the field, save us a lot of money. We're going to add an LED entrance sign to Shaker High School. A couple of weeks ago, during the Grease musical, we had that ice storm. It would have been great if from home somebody could have programmed that to say, matinee is delayed till 2 o'clock, matinee is delayed till 3 o'clock. We couldn't do that because the only way the sign gets changed is if some kid can get out there and physically put letters on the sign. And we're going to work on our HVAC system. So up left is our typical science lab. To the right is what we hope to renovate it. So you can see on the far side, there are kids who are doing like the bookwork part. Over here are kids at lab stations. You can see the teacher at the front has a demonstration session. So that right now we have kids who learn science in this room and may very well do a lab over here in this room, and potentially with a different teacher. So this will allow us to have a very different facility where kids can be learning and then practicing and experimenting and then going back to learning. If you can see on the top of the roof what looks like blue on the top, all of that is damage that has to be redone. So that is a significant amount of roofing that will have to be redone. The bottom left is where there's current lighting for the high school. That's where we're going to gut the auditorium to give them better quality lighting, and also that's where we'll find the space for the balcony. That is our famous, we all love our Shaker sign, but that's the sign. We're going to try to keep the pillars because we like the tradition and just put the LED sign in between. And that is our art gallery right now. It's a good space, but as you can see, it's kind of tucked down a hallway. It's not a celebration space. And so that we will add on to the atrium space. The synthetic turf that we talked about, if you look at the top, you see our Walker Field. At the bottom, you see Lower Malloy. And if you can look closely, under this gate, if you can see that board, that's what the kids call the bridge. It is so wet there. And that's the gate that they go onto the field to play, that we've literally put a board there so they can walk over the board to get to the field to play, so that they don't have to go into those deep puddles. So to get that cleaned up, so A, it's more usable, and B, it's less likely that they would get injured on that field, is something we really have to do. Ashley from Communications has a great video. She was a good sport. She went out in waders. It's a really good video worth watching. It's coming out this week because you can really see how deep the water is, and it's like a little swimming pool back there. On the bottom, we have the current lights on Walker Field. Now, because we took that with a drone, that looks pretty cool actually, but if you look at where they're not pointed at the field. That's why, like, in the fall when football's going on, you drive down 155 and the whole street's illuminated. It's because look at where the lights are. So above are the LED lights. You can first see that they're pointing downward, but they're also LED, so the electrical savings within 2 years will pay for itself. So I want to go over something that Sybil said because I think we can't say this enough. So all of these improvements we are projecting will be $94.1 million, which is a significant investment. However, we are currently incredibly well positioned for state aid. So we are positioned at 78%, which means the state is going to pay for 78% of this project. The project that we just looked at from 2017 that built this school, at that point, we only got 55% state aid. So the taxpayers paid almost half. At this point, the state is going to pay for more than 3/4 of this. So I don't mean to diminish that 20.6 isn't a lot of money. It certainly is, but we're paying with taxpayer money $20.6 million to actually get $94.1 million. So we need the capital project right now when we think about it. We saw the enrollment, we saw the programmatic needs, and we also are really well positioned right now because of that state aid figure. We've never had a number that high. So this year there's a little bit of change for the voting, so we want to talk to you a little bit about that. So the first thing you'll see on the ballot will simply be yes or no. Do you want to vote yes or no on the budget? Do you approve the budget or not? The second thing will be yes or no on the capital project. So you vote yes or no on that. As you always see, you'll have a Board of Election vote. We have 2 seats open, Matt Cannon and Penny Grinnell. So that will have the names of the people who are running, obviously, and you vote for who you want. So here's the interesting thing. This year, New York State as a whole approved voting by mail. So this may be one of the first elections where you have the opportunity to vote by mail. So what that means is, and I know we have signs up front that show this, if you were to scan this QR code, it would take you to a landing page on our website where you would put in your name and your address. And next week, we will mail you the ballot to your house. We will give you an envelope that already has postage on it. So instead of having to come over to the central office on May 21st between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. when you're busy and you're trying to get your family here, there, and everywhere, you can simply do it by mail. So anybody who is interested, if you're not yet a registered voter, this will also take you to a page where it'll tell you how to register. If you are a registered voter, the ballots will go out later this week, and then you have it, and then we'll have a drop box at central office, but that might defeat the purpose of just popping it in the mail, but you're welcome to do that as well. But you can just simply send it in the mail. Absentee ballots existed in the past, but you have to fill out the reason why you want an absentee ballot. It's an extra form. So if you really just want to vote by mail, do the voting by mail as opposed to the absentee ballot. It just makes it easier. So the one thing we should talk about is the contingent budget. So when people come out for the budget vote, they'll be voting on the budget as well as the capital project. And so when we think about the budget, we always have to be mindful of, well, what happens if the budget doesn't pass, right? So if the budget doesn't pass, the district has the option to try it again, but if it doesn't pass again, then the law says we have to actually impose a 0% cap. So if you think back, we were initially saying we want to raise the levy by 2.5%. That means we're going to collect $2.3 million more in taxes for next year than we did this year. But if we have to put a 0 in, we lose that $2.3 million. So at that point, to eliminate a $2.3 million shortfall, we would have to reduce programs, we would have to reduce staffing, or use more fund balance, or a combination of both. You're not gonna get $2.3 million by saving on paper clips. Like, the way you get to $2.3 million is eliminating staff or eliminating programs. So we hope we're never in that position, but I do have to tell you that. And then also, if you have a contingent budget, you cannot purchase any new equipment, you can't do any capital expenditures, so any of the things we wanted to do even internally, we can't do. And no outside organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, anything that typically uses our buildings, none of them are allowed to use our buildings. So there's quite a penalty there in a contingent budget to the entire community, as obviously in addition to the students in the district. So in summary, if you want to vote as you have always done by coming to central office, we're happy to have you. This year it's Tuesday, May 21st. It's a little bit later, just the way the calendar falls. It is from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. We'll be open. We're ready to have you. If, however, you would like to do the mail-in ballot, you can scan this QR code, and we have to receive your ballot by May 13th at 4 o'clock. That's just all part of the statute.
To request, not your ballot.
Oh, sorry, to request. We have to have your request in by May 13th so that we can get it to you and you have time to get it back to us either by mail or by dropping it off. And that may make people's lives a little bit easier because we know families are busy, you're trying to get to a million different places, so that may make it a little easier to get your voting accomplished.
I'm gonna leave if you are there.
Yeah.
There are questions.
Any questions that have come in or any questions here about the capital project that we can answer for you?
So I'm wondering if the capital project passes, can you give a sense of like what the overview would be as far as the timeline for that work?
Great question. So right now, if the capital project passes in May, then we would use the summer to kind of get all of our work done with our architects, get it finalized. Obviously, it's in progress. Get it finalized, submit it to the State Department of Education in the fall. Every school project has to go through a lengthy review from state education in order for us to get approved. That process right now is really in gridlock at the state. So I know from my colleagues in other districts who have capital projects that right now they're estimating it takes about 6 months just to get through the state ed approval, which is a really long amount of time, obviously. So that would put us realistically to about March of 25 before we might have their approval. In March of 25, once we get the approval and we have everything set to go and they say, yes, this is great, then we have to go out through a bid process. So we'd have to go out and we'd have to bid on, who's gonna be the electrical contractor, who's gonna be the general contractor, and go through the bids and award the bids. So there's, all the stars would have to align perfectly for us to be able to start work on this part of the project in summer of 25. Realistically, the big work would start summer of 26, which is why we decided to add the capital reserve. Because even though some of those have some requirements for state ed, they don't go through that big project. So while we're waiting on this in anticipation, we can start doing some of that work internally and see it going. Once we get going, even into the next school year, there will certainly be work that we can do second shift. We can, close off certain parts of the building and work on some of the improvements. But of course, the summer is the best time when there's no kids and it's just that much easier. It will be a phased-in approach. So we will start with J-Wing because as we're going to gut and renovate classes, we need those new J-Wing classrooms to move the kids into J-Wing because we're going to be displacing them from the other wings we're doing. So it will be a phased-in process. And by the time kind of all the pieces are together and it's said and done, we'll probably be looking at the 29-30 school year, much like we did here. So there is movement about different places, different parts of it will open before others. But yes, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything online, DJ?
Haven't received any.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all. I'm happy to stay and answer any questions. We're excited about having the community come out and vote on both our budget and our capital project. May 21st, just a few weeks away. But any questions, you can send them to us at community communications, and we'll be happy to get back to you or provide you more information. We'll be at a couple PTA meetings this week as well, so we'll be out and about and happy to answer people's questions. So thanks everyone for being here tonight, especially on such a nice night.